Good evening, Assalamu Alaikum, and welcome to Sports Extra. To all the viewers who are watching in Pakistan and outside Pakistan as well, to all of you, we're here with the latest roundup of sports tonight. I'm your host, Ahmed Nawaz, and whatever you want to talk about, we will always start off with the big news, and that is, of course, that Pakistan and Australia are about to lock horns. Let's take a look at our lineup for tonight, and then I'll tell you many things that are coming your way on Sports Extra tonight. We'll start off with Pakistan and Australia with a test series that is about to begin on the 4th of March. We've got the first test match at the Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium. The big news is that the National Command and Operations Centre has allowed 100% capacity for the crowd to watch this great game that we will be witnessing, and obviously test is the real format. And it's great to see that we'll have a full capacity. Everybody who can join in, of course the conditions are that you need to be fully vaccinated. For children 12 years or under 12 years, of course the condition for vaccination isn't there, so they can enjoy a test match as well. And I always tell people that take your kids to watch a test match. It's Australia playing in Pakistan. You don't see that happening every day. I know you're very hyped up about the ODI series in the lone T20 International as well, but please go on and see a test match in Rawalpindi. You'll really enjoy it because it's that time of the year when it's, quality test cricket on offer. So definitely that is going to be there, but obviously talk about both the squads, talk about the pitch, talk about the dynamics of the game. Australia a better side on paper. If you talk about Pakistan, the big news has come in that Haris Sof has tested positive for COVID-19. He's now out for the first test match. So some problems with Pakistan, but they need to address. And like I said, Australia is a better side when you talk about the experience and coming back with an Ashes victory. So they've got a tough competition that they're going to give to Pakistan, and Pakistan really need to find some answers of their own. So that is there on offer, and of course it's a 3-test match series, so Pakistan really want to dominate this because the last time Australia were here, they did beat us. So we're going to be talking about that, and of course a couple of other factors as well, where we know that the Pakistan Cup is about to begin and certain top performers are being ignored. So if that's once again there for Pakistan Cricket Board to consider, that we need to come up with things that are according to plans and on merit as well. So we'll be taking a turn on there as well. Then of course football, it has to be football, and it's going to be great football indeed. It was the final that we talk about, a League Cup final where Liverpool have beaten Chelsea in a penalty shootout. One of the most intense penalty shootouts that I've witnessed in the last couple of months or year, if you want to call it. And Liverpool have now been crowned the champions of the Carabao Cup. It was an intense game, and I really want to talk about that in detail regarding the penalties because it was absolutely great to see. Overall, Liverpool are the champions. They deserve this, and they were the better side. So we'll be talking about that in detail. And then, of course, we'll be moving on to tennis, where the big news in tennis is that Daniil Medvedev is now the new world number 1 when you talk about world tennis. So all his career, the way he's been acing everything, giving tough time to the top 3 as well in the recent past, and we've got to talk about that in detail. Of course, US Open champion, a 4th Masters title, so much to his career as well. That's on the table of Sports Extra that we talk about tonight. That's the lineup that we've got for you, and we're going to be discussing that today. Time now to introduce my guest in studios. First of all, we've been joined by somebody who's a former Test cricketer. He's been an ICC match referee. He's been part of the PCB in various roles and capacity, including a team manager every now and then as well. And then, of course, when you talk about the game itself, he's witnessed history, he's lived history, and he himself is history when you talk about this great game that we all love. Colonel Noshad Ali is joining us. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Great to have you on the show. It's been a long time, but good to have you. We've also been joined by a cricket expert who's going to be talking about the excitement of the game that is going to take place at the Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium. Ali Abbas is joining us. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Hi, Islam Ahmed. Thank you
Great
so much
to have
for the
you on the
introduction.
show. Now, before we begin, we do know that we're all positive and we're all hyped up for this test series, but it's very unfortunate that from across the border, we've got negative propaganda, not just regarding this series, but everywhere when it's about Pakistan cricket or Pakistan in general. This false propaganda tends to damage the image of Pakistan and Pakistan cricket, but now it's for the world to witness this because we've exposed them, and we've exposed them to the world to see how they create these false propagandas and these negative image buildings to cause damage to Pakistan cricket. But I think it's far beyond that now. There's no stopping Pakistan cricket. Inshallah, it's going to proceed with the pace it is, and it's all upwards from here. We've got this report. Let's take a look and then come back.
In a bid to sabotage Australia's historic tour of Pakistan and to sabotage international cricket in the country, a person from India reportedly sent threats to the family of an Australian cricketer and has warned them of dire consequences if he travels to Rawalpindi. Per sources, the family of the Australian cricketer was sent threatening messages via fake Instagram account. The security sources said that the Instagram account was being handled from India's Gujarat state. India has been using notorious tactics in the past to make Pakistan a no-go zone for international cricket. Earlier, West Indian cricketers were also issued threats to stop them from visiting Pakistan. New Zealand and England Cricket Board have cancelled their scheduled tour after receiving the same type of threats. However, this time the threat was dismissed following an investigation by the boards of Pakistan and Australia and government security agencies. Australia expressed satisfaction over the foolproof security arrangements made by Pakistan Cricket Board for the tour, and Cricket Australia said extensive security plans were in place for such social media activity and that the threat was not considered a risk. Agar was said to be in good spirits too, whereas Australian batsman Steve Smith said that the players felt incredibly safe on their first tour.
There you have it. All you need to know about what we were discussing, and like I said, that it leaves a bad taste for the game itself. The game belongs to the people of the entire world. It does not belong to a certain community, and it's things like these that really cause damage to the game and for future generations to come. But sir, you would agree that credit to Cricket Australia. They've lived up to their commitment of touring Pakistan. A complete side is here, and like we just mentioned, that their vice captain Steve Smith also gave a very positive statement that they feel completely safe in Pakistan and have faith in the authorities in Pakistan.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Cricket Australia, they have stood. I mean, they have stood for Pakistan. They have stood for the Pakistan security agencies, and I think because somebody had success when the New Zealand came here, so they wanted to repeat the same thing. They tried. I think Pakistan government, the security agencies, cricket board, everybody has worked so very hard from all technical point of view and all other aspects. I'm pretty sure that something will not happen on this front, and Pakistan will surely go around for the international cricket, which is come up to Pakistan now, and it should continue that way.
Definitely. Ali Bas, this is of course somewhere where we see that there's so much excitement, positivity going around, and such acts to tarnish the image of Pakistan cricket will always be there. But the way Cricket Australia has responded and the way Pakistan Cricket Board has handled the entire situation speaks volumes of the trust between these two cricket boards.
I know, and for cricket to progress, you cannot let any Tom, Dick and Harry just get up one day and decide they're going to send someone a message on social media and get a reaction. And the statement by Steve Smith was so heartening. It shows exactly where the world stands in terms of how they want to support Pakistan cricket. And one thing I would like to highlight here is how Cricket Australia is now prioritizing their test cricket as well as playing for their own country. We did complain about the fact that maybe they were a little bit more attracted towards the IPL, but you feel now that they're really valuing test cricket and they're not going to let any such sort of an activity on social media especially come in the way of them dominating test cricket once again. So we have an Australian side which is really determined to bring the glory back to Australian test cricket. Along with that, you have Pakistan as well, who is making great efforts in ensuring cricket does remain in Pakistan. So it's great news all around, and hopefully nothing like this comes up again and we have a fantastic test series.
So you'd like to add
I
to
just want to add, I mean, the Pakistan is playing cricket. Cricket is in the blood of Pakistanis, so is it with the Indians. I mean, they could take it as sports as a sport. They should not indulge in politics with the sport. If they do it like this, the petty things like this, I mean, it will harm Indians as well. I mean, the people in India won't like their people doing something against the game of cricket, which is honestly a great game, particularly in the subcontinent.
Sir, if we, just gauge the standing of the Australian cricket team in the hierarchy of ICC and world cricket, then we know it occupies a very strong position. What does it mean when we see a team of Australia is touring Pakistan after 23 years? What message does it send out to the entire cricketing community?
Your answer is there. I mean, why they waited for 23 years?
Yes, sir.
They could have done it earlier. I mean, they wanted to feel so secure, confident. When they said that everything is okay, then said okay to go toward Pakistan. As rightly you said, the Australians, of course, they are part of the ICC's main hub. Pakistan is part of the test match playing countries. So they must have weighed everything from the players' point of view, from the cricket's point of view, and from the Australian cricket team's future your point of view as well. So I'm pretty sure that when they were satisfied, and I'm very happy to see that the Australians, they have stood by their words, and they have come here, and not only came here, but also they have said we will inshallah will continue doing what for that we have come here.
How exciting is it as a cricket fan? I mean, 100% capacity allowed, tickets on sale, and you know the dynamics of Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium are so great that you get a real-time experience of the game because the distance from the stands and the pitch is not that much.
I'm going to ask you after the game to use your connections and get me some tickets for the VIP box.
Well,
I'm really excited.
I've highlighted this on another platform of Pakistan television, and I would take this opportunity to once again highlight that on behalf of me, Ali Abbas, even Colonel Oshad Saab sitting here, the team of Sports Extra, Mr. Shirazi, everybody, we'd just like to highlight that we love all of you, but unfortunately we don't have any tickets. It's the same with the PSL. I know people are still pissed at us, but you know, let me be very honest. PCB has done the fair share of reducing ticket prices to an extent where I'm sure you can purchase them online. It's 100 and 500 rupees. Go there, enjoy the test match. If you have VIP tickets, let us know as well, because we don't have them.
We'll reach out to you.
Because the messages, the quality of messages has gone a touch notch ahead now, because now people are very particular about T20s, this enclosure, best seats in the house. I wish I was chairman PCB, but I'm not.
I'm just going to answer your question in one sentence. That I just saw the images of Mitchell Starc practicing in Rawalpindi today, and I never thought I would ever see those images in my lifetime. And those images are so moving, and I think an entire generation has missed out on quality cricket in Pakistan, and we get to see it now. So I'm excited. I'm going on Friday. I will be there for that monumental day. I'll find my way in. So yeah, I'm really excited, and hopefully everything goes according to plan.
Yes, sir. Sir, do you have tickets?
I mean, he is a youngster. I mean, he said everything on a few words, but that explains everything. Now,
yes, sir.
Now 100% attendance is allowed.
Yes, sir.
This is a capacity ground. If come to Pindi Stadium, it's about 19
yes,
or
they can do it to 20,000. Yes.
So even 20,000, I can assure you this, despite all this demand of the ticket and then the vaccination problem as well, it will be 19,000 inside and somebody will be outside
as well. Waiting to get inside.
Inshallah, of course. And I'm pretty sure that this will be a good test match. Why a good test match? The two teams are the balanced team, one of the best playing test match teams at the moment.
But sir, let's talk about the dynamics in the teams now. We have to consider that this is no pushover team. It is Australia with a complete squad coming back from the victory of an Ashes against England. So it's going to be very tough for Pakistan even in these conditions.
You see, if you go back to about 10 years, a decade back, I mean, Australians were a team where they used to have calculated like this. If you choose number 1 team in the world, it is Australia. Number 2 in the world, it is Australia. And number 3 in the world, even Australia. But they slipped. And then after that, they have come back so very strong. Now, I'm pretty sure that they are considered and they are number 1 team in the world. When Pakistan playing against Australia, they have to use all their resources to combat with them.
What do you think about the match itself? Because we do know that they're a quality Australian side.
I know, and I think the first test match is maybe Australia. I think they're a really strong side, but it's their best chance of winning because Rawalpindi Stadium has been historically known to give a bit of something to the fast bowlers. And I don't know exactly the kind of selection they will go with, but I think Australia have enough fast bowlers to trouble any batsman on any pitch regardless of where they're playing in the world. So I think Rawalpindi test match is going to be very exciting. The toss is going to play a huge role. There might be some interference by the weather as well. So a lot of factors are just pouring in and it's just getting more and more exciting. Personally, I'm really excited to see how they fare on these conditions because they don't know much about Pakistan. The PSL, none of the matches took place in Rawalpindi as well. So there is an element of surprise, but I do hope that the pitches are a bit more neutral and we get really competitive cricket. We just don't get spin-friendly turning conditions. So,
well, so you have the complete art of pitch making. So we remember that manual as well.
I'm particularly Rawalpindi Stadium.
Yes,
I have done it as a domestic match referee. I have done it as a international match referee against West Indies. So I have seen this pitch very closely. You see, for 90 minutes in the first, why the toss is important as you said so? Because the first 90 minutes somebody wants to take chances, they can take their chances. In say 90 odd minutes, say about say 15 or 20 overs, the ball moves. It moves not only in the air but off the pitch as well. So if there are 2 or 3 wickets just before the lunch, the team bowling first will have an upper hand. And then the match starts, and after that, the closing hours, the pitch is not the same. What was in the morning, it will play differently. It will somewhat we support it to the batting lineup as well. But also the turn is concerned, it does take turn, but the slow turn, not the fast turn. So it is not very effective, of course, unless you push the ball in the air, it doesn't, it's very difficult for that. So I think toss play will play an important role, and let us see how the weather goes on, and according to that, I think that will be a very good match between bat and ball.
But sir, as the news is coming that Pakistan is probably going for a slower pitch, so that identifies that maybe we're banking on the 4th, 5th, 8th for the track to spin a lot and for our batters to get a cushion.
Let us talk about what's the slow pitch.
Yes, sir.
I mean, where the ball does take little bit of grip. When the ball takes that grip, it has got some resistance from the surface. And then the ball doesn't go at that speed with the batsman is expecting it to receive it. So in that way, it does take grip. When it grips, then it turns also. Turns slowly, but it does turn. If the captain and the team planning is such, they have silly mid off, silly mid on, silly short leg, I mean, then they can make the difference all that.
Definitely. Ali Abbas, whether the pitch is slow or whether it's not, it is still Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc, Nathan Lyon at the other end. So our batters really need to have that cushion to be able to bat long.
Honestly, in terms of giving cricket analysis after what Sir has mentioned, it's impossible for me to follow up on that.
No, please.
But generally, I think, I don't know, I think obviously, like, no matter what they do with the pitch, I mean, we are going to expect that Australians will have an option. It's more to do with the team selection, whether they go in with 3 fast bowlers, whether they bring in 2 spinners, the kind of role that Nathan Lyon plays. I mean, there has been a lot of reservations about how he does away from home, and maybe these are the conditions in which he can perform really well. So I personally do feel that maybe the Rawalpindi test would have a bit more for the fast bowlers. I would also like Pakistan to maybe just go with 1 spinner and play the fast bowlers along with that, and maybe Australia are going to do the same. Now the question remains whether they play Josh Hazelwood, Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc. I mean, if they want to bully us in the first 20 years, they can, and we won't mind that. I would love to see Mitchell Starc steaming in and bowling to Pakistan, because my my motivation to watch the match is different. But then again, I think it's going to be exciting to see what they come up with, and the Australians can surprise you anytime.
Sir Nushad and Ali Abbas, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honor having your insight on this as well, and obviously we'll keep on talking about this. But obviously before we go, like I mentioned at the start as well, that the Pakistan Cup is about to start, and we've got so many names coming up in different squads. But one of the news that came in, and we were able to research this as well, a guy from Southern Punjab, Ali Usman, who was the highest wicket taker when you talk about the tournament, 43 wickets in just 9 games. And he's been performing well. You've got the stats in front of you. Qaid-e-Azam Trophy 2021, 9 matches, 43 wickets for him. Top of the line when you talk about spin bowling, 5 for 76 in 1 game. And the figures keep on going on and on. And he's nowhere there in the Pakistan Cup. With 2 fifers and an average of 27.9, you expect that to happen. And I think we need to go into the depth of this as well, that why he's not there. He's not part of any squad in the Pakistan Cup. I mean, this is a time where we are looking for quality spinners. We're trying to get a quality spin lineup for Pakistan in the future. So I think very disappointing, but hopefully things can change, and somebody like Ali Usman, who's performed well, taken 43 wickets, what more should he do? Would probably get part of the squad once again. On that note, we'll go towards a short break, but we've got more coming up. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Sports Extra. Time now for our segment on football. We're hanging on to Ali Abbas because he's got bragging rights tonight. But also joining us is my co-host, our sports expert and football youth coach as well, Sabeel Hazir. Assalamu alaikum, Sabeel. How are you?
Walaikum assalam, Ahmed. I'm doing well.
Great to have you on the show. Now, before we begin, what we're going to be talking about is spectacular. It was a great night for football, no matter what side you were supporting, even though if you were a Manchester United fan watching that game. But still, I think it was a phenomenal night. Let's take a look at this report and then come back.
Liverpool triumphed over Chelsea to win the Carabao Cup after Kepa Arrizabalaga missed the decisive penalty in a marathon 11-10 shootout at Wembley. It was clear from the opening moments that this was a game that would be settled on fine margins or a pivotal decision. Chelsea had 3 goals disallowed, one from Romelu Lukaku by an offside dealing in millimetres, while Mason Mount was guilty of 2 big misses. Liverpool answered back as 2 outstanding teams traded chances, with Chelsea keeper Mendy twice saving brilliantly within seconds in the first half. Kepa was brought on by Chelsea head coach Thomas Tuchel for the shootout in the final minute of extra time. The tension stretched out into a display of penalty expertise from both sides that went right down to the 2 keepers. Kepa failed to save a single penalty before blazing his own effort over the bar to hand Liverpool victory after a goalless 120 minutes.
Well, there you have it, and I think a lot of discussion and a lot of things will go into this topic that we're going to be discussing. But Liverpool are champions of the Carabao Cup. They won the League Cup final courtesy of penalties. But probably you can say that they've deserved the win and they are the champions now. So we'll be talking about that in detail. But Sabeel, I'm sure that Kepa is a penalty specialist, but not a penalty taker specialist. But to his credit, to his silver lining, we always talk about youngsters trying to fill in the shoes of legends, and I think he's tried to fill in the shoes of Terry, and I still remember that penalty against Manchester United.
I think it's very rough. It's very, very rough. No keeper should have to take a penalty, you know. There's some keepers who like taking them. Neuer took one in a Champions League final very famously in the first 5 penalties, but no keeper is expected to do that. I'll maintain, in my opinion, I think they did the right thing bringing Kepa on. He has an amazing record with penalties, shootouts for Chelsea specifically. Not that Mendy's bad, obviously they've just won the AFCON and through a shootout. So there is reason to believe that Mendy could have done a decent enough job. He picked right side most of the time. Kepa. So it wasn't that bringing him on was the bad call. You can't expect, no keeper is going and expecting there to be 11 shots and to take. No keeper in the world is expecting that. Even if they don't expect to save one, maybe they're hoping somebody misses. It happens in shootouts. So it's exciting, but it's really surprising we got that far. Credit to Liverpool, all their penalties were perfect except Konate's, but at least the keeper dived the wrong way for that. Every pen, like Van Dijk's pen, was perfection. People keep talking about, Kepa picked the right side, but he still...
Even Salah's was phenomenal.
Yeah, Salah's, Milner's, Van Dijk's, they were amazing penalties. The only bad penalties in that shootout were obviously Kepa's miss, Konate's, which he scored from, but it wasn't great, and Werner's, which Keller, amazing job, deserves a lot of credit. That kid had an amazing game. Genuinely, what a defining moment for such a young person to step up in that moment. But Werner's penalty was garbage, and a better keeper would have saved it. But really, really tough shootout, and I feel for Kepa, I really do. And anybody who thinks Mendy would have done a better job, look, we're talking about. There's no way we'll ever know, because no keeper expects to take that. I doubt Mendy went off thinking, I'll score a penalty.
But it's garbage when Liverpool's winning, right?
Well, you can't keep me out of the studio today, can you? But I think I'm just going to add up to what Sabeel was saying. I do agree with the fact that you cannot really blame the goalkeeper. I think Martin Tyler, before the penalties were about to take place, did mention that this is maybe where the keepers are at an ease because they're not expected to save the penalties. But Kepa had a chance to save one of at least 11 penalties. And I think that is where the criticism goes, that he was brought on as a penalty saving specialist and he couldn't save even one of those 11 penalties. I mean, yes, the penalties were amazing, but if he did guess the right side and if he got a hand to one of those, he should have saved them. So I think that's where the criticism goes. Most of it is unjust because no keeper is expected to take a penalty. We have seen the best in the world when it comes to penalties missing them at really crucial stages. But he had 11 chances and he could have saved at least one of those. So that is where the criticism comes in, that if he cannot save one of those 11, why not continue with Mendy? Because Mendy had such an amazing game. It seemed like anything that was coming at him, he was going to save it. I do feel Mendy was going to save Konate's penalty. I know they just
Konate one when you're saying the 1 out of 11.
Yeah, the one I'm talking about. I'm glad he didn't. But then again, I think he had 11 chances and he didn't take them. But then again, he won them the Super Cup. So these moments do come in the life of a football player, in the life of a professional, and I'm sure he'll come out stronger because he has a manager who fully supports him.
I want you to stop this nonsense. You're over the moon that you've won. You've got bragging rights and you're going to be...
Quadruple, we're still 3 away from...
So you're going to be going on about this for the rest of our life.
I'll tell you why I'm so happy, because this the squad that Jurgen Klopp has assembled has slightly underachieved. I mean, you are remembered by the amount of trophies you win. We've seen the great United teams do that in the past, Chelsea teams do that in the past. So Liverpool team is going to be remembered by the number of trophies that they win. Even if they win one Premier League and one Champions League, it comes down to being 2 trophies.
Okay.
So you have to win these cup competitions, and I'm glad that Jurgen Klopp is prioritizing them. And I'm even glad that he won it by not playing Alisson.
You know, we'll always have some of those players, all of us, you know, on the in our, you know, we call them skeletons in our closet. So we know all about it, considering we're playing a defender who is an Avenger in the team. So, you know, I won't go
The
there.
most expensive defender in the world, if I'm not wrong.
Don't go there. Don't,
just-
you know,
just stating the
I might
facts.
have to close
Fact
it right
alls.
now. So don't go there. But overall, good end to the League Cup final. And like he's mentioning that Liverpool have wanted more from their games and even from the Premier League. But okay, so this is one compensation for that.
Definitely. Look, they're still chasing City. Now with City losing to Spurs, that has opened up the title race a little bit more. I still think it's still in City's favour. They're a very hard team to catch.
Yeah.
And points on the board are better than hypothetical points on the board. But they have more to play for. And if anybody watched, when you say good end to the League Cup final, it's one of the most exciting nil-nils you'll ever see in your life. And I think it's interesting because all of Chelsea's big chances fell to Mount, and I'm a big fan of Mount, right? But if it was the other way around, that Mount was supplying Havertz, because it was Havertz supplying Mount. Havertz is a clutch player. I keep saying that word.
Yeah.
He would have probably buried those chances, right? So on another day, another player in that situation who was on the pitch, Chelsea would win that. I think both teams had amazing chances. Keepers were phenomenal, and it was an exciting game. And fitting in the sense that obviously both teams, like they have in the league a bit, have come up a bit short. But it was an amazing end to an amazing final. And even though it was 0-0, if you didn't watch the game, it wasn't just an exciting shootout at home. It was an incredible match as well to watch.
Yes, sir. You'd like to
Yeah,
add
and
to it.
I think it was a great cup final because after COVID and not having the fans, and I think this was the first feeling that we had of a domestic final in England. I know England hosted the final of the Euros as well, but nothing comes close to their domestic competitions. And having a feeling of that final in England at Wembley, you know, all of those fans and the restrictions have eased now in the UK. So it was really refreshing to see that, and even more refreshing once your team lifts the trophy. But generally, you know, even if Liverpool wasn't playing, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it equally as much, because by the end of the day, we missed fans in the stadiums. We missed football the way it is being played nowadays, and we just hope things keep on getting better. And Liverpool do the same in the FA Cup final as well in a few
You
months'
like Van
time.
Dijk's stare that he gave Kepa, right?
Exactly. I mean, he basically just played the mind games back at him.
Well, that was happening, but I think Kali Abbas will realize soon or enough that we're all for the supremacy of the Scottish Premier League. That's where we want to go. But Sibyl, for youngsters out there, and this has been a question for many people, as a coach, what's the right technicality involved in taking a penalty? What should be there?
So I'm very guilty of being terrible at penalties because
I'm a witness of that.
I don't follow the golden rule, which is you pick a side and you stick to it. Everybody says it. Alan Shearer, I think on TV, has said this about 1,000 times, that pick a side, stick with it. Generally, that's what Van Dijk did. Look at Van Dijk, but Kepa stood where Van Dijk was going to hit it, and he just said, okay, I'm going to hit it even harder now in the same place.
But my position will be the same.
So pick a side before you go on to a match. Be like, look, if I get a pen in a shootout, if you're the regular penalty taker, you have varieties. You've trained them, whatever. If you're not a regular penalty taker, practice one side, one penalty, and be like, if I ever get a chance, I'm going to hit it as hard as I can. I shut into that corner no matter what. So pick a side, stick with it throughout. That is something I need to practice
But going
more
hard at the
myself.
ball, doesn't it increase your chances of going way over?
You can hit it low and hard.
Yeah.
So I think when people go for postage stamps, it's like you can try that top corner stuff, but that very rarely comes off. Van Dijk pulled it off, Ronaldo pulls it off, a lot of top players do. But the best thing is if you're not somebody comfortable with shooting technique, say you're a centre half who doesn't shoot a lot, right? But you want to practice
But
your
the trick is don't be predictable.
But it doesn't matter if you're predictable. It's very hard to save a high, like Kepa dived
I
the
think
right
Van
way
Dijk's
from
example is
Yeah.
one that maybe you could show to any youngster.
Milner's as well, by the way. Milner put it right in the corner. So even if Kepa had dived that way, right, it's very hard for a keeper to save something that's in the side netting. So you pick a side, hit it hard, low, side netting. Nobody saves those. So my advice would be pick a bottom corner, pick it every time. Doesn't matter if you're predictable. you score 19 or 20 penalties that way. But if you if you're not somebody who's a regular penalty taker who has to take a variety of different pens, you probably mess it up if you overcomplicate
I have
things.
a question for Sabeel though.
Yes,
Being
very
a
quickly.
coach, if one of the youngsters in your team comes back after trying to do a Fabinho and the keeper catches it right in the hands, what would your reaction be?
Nothing. If it's a kid, I want them to express themselves. I'll be like, it's good, you tried and you learned and you can try it again. Children need
Right.
to have full expression with football.
Right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Well, we've got a report on that. Let's take a look and then come back.
Daniil Medvedev succeeded Novak Djokovic as world number 1, becoming the first man since 2004 outside the game's Big Four of Djokovic, Nadal, Roger Federer and Andy Murray to occupy the top spot. The 26-year-old Medvedev, beaten by Nadal in the Acapulco semi-finals last week, was guaranteed to move above Djokovic. Medvedev, who stands at 198 centimeters, the tallest player to earn the honor in the history of the ATP rankings. Some of the Medvedev's biggest results en route to world number 1 include his first Grand Slam title at the last year's US Open, an ATP Masters 1000 trophy last year in Toronto at the National Bank Open presented by Rogers, a run to the championship match at the last year's Nitto ATP Finals, and a trip to his 4th major final at this year's Australia Open. Medvedev cracked the top 100 in ATP rankings in November 2016 when he was 20 years old. The next year he competed at the inaugural ATP Finals in Milan in July 2019. He broke into the top 10 for the first time. He has won 13 tour-level titles, including 4 Masters 1000 crowns. Medvedev also claimed the prestigious season-ending ATP Finals trophy in 2020.
Right, it is Daniil Medvedev who is now the new world number 1. Sabeel Hazir, your thoughts on this?
Long time coming. Well, I say long time coming, it's just because he's been second for about a year. But obviously he's still young. It's very good to see him get to number 1. I was hoping he'd do it by winning against Nadal in Australia and then get to the top. But obviously, no matter how you get there, to be at the pinnacle of your sport is an amazing achievement. Only 27, I think, since they started compiling this, 27 world number 1s. And he's only the 3rd Russian, as was mentioned. Incredible journey for a man who has become another pantomime villain in the tennis world, unfortunately, because his story, much like Djokovic,
But hopefully this eases a bit of frustration now.
that's what I was about to say.
Or gives it more.
That's actually what I was going to come to, because that's very on the point, because look, him and Djokovic have become these pantomime villains. Even though if you hear their stories, they're really heartwarming stories of kids who came through a lot to become the athletes they are, right? But, he spoke about at the Australian Open that kid inside him basically dying, being dead. The dream of the kid is dead. I'm just going to play now to secure my family's future and to pay back the people who've had faith in me, right? So this is obviously going to be a big confidence booster. Like, look, we hope you get that love for the game back. You're at the top of the game. We want you to love tennis because, look, he can be number 1 now, right? We want you to be playing for a long time because this generation, the one that we've all grown up in, right, has been spoilt in terms of elite athletes maintaining peak performance for a long time. We've had Serena Williams, we've had Nadal and Federer. In other sports, we've had Messi, Ronaldo, we've had a lot of these athletes.
Icons of the game.
Hamilton. We've had all these people stay for a long time now. With sports science now, that's possible, right? So we want Medvedev to be the guy who takes over because these guys are aging now. Our top 3, there's a top 4, but Andy Murray was barely there. So the top 3, right, are going to be gone soon,
You need
right?
a new name.
Yeah, and we want that new name to stick around. I keep saying this about women's tennis, and I hope Barty is that for women's tennis, and I really hope he's that for men's tennis. Like Djokovic is still around for a while if he doesn't get cancelled from every tournament on the way. But this guy, really have a lot of faith in him. What a player, and I'm so happy to see him number 1. Genuinely, really happy for him.
You could actually text Djokovic, hey, I'm in City. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not going to be there. So Ali Abbas, like he's mentioned, that tennis needs these new heroes now for the longevity of the game.
Yeah.
But Daniil Medvedev has been no less than phenomenal throughout the year.
He has been. I mean, generally, if you have been following tennis, it's so good to see a new name coming up. I mean, like Sabeel mentioned, with Djokovic, Nadal, and even Federer, they're at the twilight of their career. We won't see them around for a few more years. So it's important not only to take the stage to be world number 1, but to carry on for such a longer period of time, because that is what the predecessors have done. That is what they've shown, that exactly if you put in the hard work, if you have the right attitude, if you have the right coaching, and in Djokovic's case, if you have the right nutrition as well, you can go on for as long as you want. And I mean, there's no stopping him, and he only has himself to compete against for now, and I hope he does go far. And generally, I mean, tennis needs new heroes, new icons. Every sport does. Like we mentioned that in football as well. So I hope he's the one to take it forward, and exciting times ahead if you're a tennis fan.
Definitely. Ali Abbas, Sabeel Hajar, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Extra. Of course, taking a look at our segment recap, we discussed tennis, we discussed the fact that Medvedev is now the new world #1, and obviously great to him and for the longevity of tennis as well. That's all we have time for. From me and the entire team, it's goodbye for now.